Well, welcome, Tshepo. It's lovely to be chatting to you. We're taking the opportunity today to interview Tshepho Langa and hear more about his book. And as he says, this book was written from his heart, and he really wants it to make a difference and change people's lives. So, Tshepo, I'd like to just find out a little bit about you, and then we'll start talking more about your book. When I look at your LinkedIn profile and when I know a little bit about you, it seems to me that your business career or your career has really gone on two tracks. The one has been business focused, business development, economics, and then the other has been education. So how do those two tracks work in your life?
Well, Leigh, thank you for the opportunity. I would say that actually education is my business. So I educate and I run that as a business. Despite the fact that I've got other businesses that I do as hobbies, but my core business is education. Every individual has got gifts with which to serve humanity. Whether we use them or not, that's a different conversation. But as for me, my gifts to humanity are one, to teach ignored life laws and principles, and two, to inspire change for purposeful success. Life laws and principles are simple, yet as human beings, we do not give those laws and principles attention. As such, we live compromised life that makes us to cope, as opposed to owning life. For example, how many people do not enjoy their jobs? How many people do not enjoy their relationships? How many people do not enjoy time with themselves? We often do things that make us forget about our deep needs in order to just cope. So my life is about teaching the life principles that propel change towards fulfillment against all odds.
Wow, that's a mouthful. Amazed. So, Tshepo, so your passion, and it comes from a love of people and a desire to create this change. As you say, people aren't necessarily happy in their jobs. They're doing things in their lives that aren't fulfilling. So what sparked this interest for you in the mind, and how education, and you talk about business, education is your business, and your book is focused on the mind. What am I thinking is the title of your book. So you've brought in this whole idea of, people aren't happy, people aren't living the lives they want to. So tell me how that all connects together in your book in terms of this mind that you're wanting for people to focus on.
So Leigh, this all sparked up from my own experiences. And then that propelled me to start observing others that I coach and that I inspire. And I've come to realize that not many people do what they really are passionate with. So people are raised, and then, we are raised to want to be to become professionals, and as such then get wages or, salaries so that we pay for stuff. But little are we taught about our gifts, about our passion, about the fact that as an individual, Leigh is born for something specific. And that which Leigh is born for is very much about their own experiences and them sharing with others. Okay, so in my experience, for instance, I used to be in corporate. I worked in retail and I worked in banking for quite a number of years. But then I could not find, joy out of what I was doing. Yes, it was okay because I had the skills necessary to do what I was doing. However, there was not an absolute internal fulfillment. So I started searching deep within, and then I came to discover that, you know what, Tshepo is a teacher. This is me. I am a teacher, and by a teacher, I do not mean that I'm a formal teacher. I am a teacher in a sense that I do demystifying of complex concepts and then make it easy for people so that they are palatable for practical use. So I went through that whole journey myself, whereby I used to be in corporate, but then I found myself, and it was not an easy decision because we as human beings have proclivity to what is familiar. But then when you find yourself, you get to then make a research about yourself. And that is a fulfilling journey. And that's what I did. So I discovered that I'm a teacher, or rather an educator. And then I started pursuing that. So I got to the formal education, but I also do informal education, whereby I do coaching, I do my own courses in order to assist people.
Tshepo, I mean, I just love this idea that you've gone on this journey, that of your own self-discovery and your own understanding of yourself, to be clear that this is who I am. I'm a teacher. And that,
Yeah.
but more than that, that you've pulled out what kind of teacher you are, that you demystify these complex ideas to make them practical for people so that they can understand them and then therefore implement them. And I think that really sums up your book for me, is that this whole thing of the mind is something very complex. We don't really understand how the brain works. We don't really understand how to utilize our own thinking for our benefit. And yet you've been able to pull out in very simple to understand ways these complex ideas. So what is it about our thinking that is so important to you? Why is our thinking, why is that the focus of your book?
You know, Leigh, I went through a number of very good experiences in life and very bad experiences in life. And I think that was my biggest blessing. So over the years of coaching and inspiring people, I've learned that all of us are meant to be a gift to others. Most of the experiences that I have been through contribute to my demeanor, eloquence of sharing, and empathy to my clients. And as I mature over time, my overall intent is to teach. Even if I have to use my own personal experiences, I might be vulnerable as I share, but the value that I produce to other individuals is invaluable and could be an absolute change initiator towards purposeful success. So I've developed this teaching style of complexity to simplicity. So I got onto understanding that we have, as human beings, around 60,000 thoughts a day. And that is a lot of thoughts. So I also then went deep into it to discover the fact that there are unintentional thoughts, which I call imaginations, because they just pop into your brain. But then there are intentional thoughts that I myself can form. So when you look at TV and you see something hurtful or negative, it affects the way you think. But if I choose to switch on a video by Dr. Miles Monroe or Dr. John Maxwell, my thinking becomes different. So now I want to be in that league as well, because that is what I'm passionate about. I want somebody to listen to me and want to pursue a good thinking pattern. I want somebody to listen to me and start getting excited about life, start getting excited about the positive that they themselves can bring to life. So this book is about intentional thinking. I want somebody to want to think positively, intentionally, because if you can get the positive thinking, you are able to overcome a whole lot. As I share in my book, there were times where, life was really dark. And had I followed in that thought process, I would not be where I am today. So I chose to be positive. And I've come to learn certain mechanisms that I share in the book that actually propel me or propel anyone to be on a positive thinking streak. And if one can do that, then life becomes a breeze. And if you find your purpose, it is very easily to go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, or to even wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning without anyone pushing you, because you've got intrinsic motivation. No one has to push me to do my work. Right now, when you told me you're going to interview me, I made sure that I got ready for this because this is exciting. This is my life. It's not a job whereby I have to do something by 8 o'clock and it's extrinsic motivation whereby my boss tells me, Tshepo, I need your report by 8 o'clock in the morning. No, I am my boss, the worst boss, unfortunately, but I am very happy with what I do. So I am motivated to do it. And because I know the purpose, and then I am intentional about wanting to achieve that which I'm born for, it's easy. So the book is about that. Making sure that you find out your purpose and then use your mind to be creative about serving people with that purpose.
Wow, I really love that, Tshepo, this idea that when you find your purpose and that it's a journey and a process, but when you are clear about your purpose, that it is incredibly self-motivating. You don't need anybody standing over you. That creates an energy that gives you the desire to do what you want to do, and that then you're able to also have this intentional thinking where you choose where you put your thoughts and what you put into your thoughts to be able to get the results that you want. And that if you combine that with sharing it with others, that we have this built-in part of our purpose, I guess, what you're saying is to share it with others, that it leads to a very rich and fulfilling life, and
Yes.
really what you're wanting to share with others. Tshepo, you've mentioned a couple of times, and it comes across a lot in your book, is your own personal story. That this is not, you're not just doing this as an intellectual exercise. This is something that, yes, you have really worked through from a thinking process, but it's also worked through in your personal life. And you aren't afraid to tell your story in your book, and to be vulnerable about your feelings going through dark times. So why is that? What is it, and how did it feel being so vulnerable in writing?
Okay, well, Leigh, firstly, let me say, with my own coaching experience, I've become convinced of something. We are all going through something tough, or we just went through something tough, or we're heading for something tough. So if you have not gone through hell as yet, be prepared, it's coming. That's a horrible reality. Unfortunately, it is a reality, as I call it. So one that has not been through something that I went through or something similar might think, oops, what is he on about? But if you live long enough, it's coming. unfortunately, not all of us go through it positively. It is so sad, and that is something that touches my heart very much, is that when people go through hard times, some of them do not survive it and they go under. Because you can imagine if you are going through a divorce, for instance, or you go through retrenchment, or you are fired in a horrible way at work. Not everyone comes through it, because number one, you lose your self-confidence, you have self-doubt, and you go into a pity party. And it's very easy. I've went through that, and thank God for my thinking pattern, because I overcame it. So I wrote this book as a tool to express my own teaching. And I become vulnerable about sharing because I know that I know that people are going through stuff. And I want to inspire someone to say, you can go through this. And these are not things that people talk about every day. We all go to work, we all smiling, wearing beautiful dresses and suits, but we are human. We are going through stuff. And I pick that up over my coaching sessions. And that is what the book is about. I want to reach to the depth of you. I want to reach to the real human being inside of that beautiful suit, because we are going through a whole lot of stuff. Let me touch on something, for instance. I mean, pursuing my purpose, going into education and going into inspirational talks, going through coaching, it was not easy. Because number one, I've got an MBA. So somebody expects you, somebody like myself, to be in corporate and be an executive, which I've done. But then there's something more meaningful for me. What is more meaningful is to touch someone's life, to touch how they think, to propel them to eternal success, not just monetary success. There's a big difference. That's it. And then when you go into that purpose, it's not easy. You're gonna go through a whole lot of things. I mean, I had to go through fear. I had to go through being worried about failure. Even with the book. When I was writing the book, I was thinking to myself, oh goodness, what if people do not like the book? What if people do not understand what I'm trying to portray? What if they, maybe I do not write as well as I think I am writing. But then I had to just stay on course, because I'm doing this for a very sincere cause, and I want to help people very sincerely. So as I cover in one of the chapters about the paradox of mistakes and wisdom, is that you have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to say, I might miss it, and still go ahead. Because right now I wrote a book for the very first time. Do I think it's perfect? When I look at it, I have great thoughts that I could make it better. But believe me, it is actually fine. Somebody is going to read that book and is going to be inspired. Somebody is going to read that book and initiate change towards success and towards purpose. And that's what matters. Will other books that are coming get better? Of course they will. Les Brown says, you don't have to be good to get started, but you have to get started to be good.
That is so true. And that you demonstrate that so practically in your life, and that I really appreciate that in order to touch the human in all of us, that you yourself choose to be very human in your book, and even now in this interview, just sharing about yourself. And as you say, that's what you get to the essence of the person, not just to the mask, not just to the suit, but to the person. And that's really where life change happens, is when you get to that heart, the humanness. And I think also facing the reality of life, isn't it? The reality, you've either been through a tough time, you're in a tough time, or you're about to face a tough time. Life. And look at us, here we are in the middle of a pandemic. And what are the tools that we have to be able to deal with these really tough times is what we've been given. And that is our minds. And therefore, how can we use it? Our minds and our stories and our gifts, and how you've now encapsulated that into the book. And you speak openly in your book as well, as you've just said now, that it wasn't easy writing. It's your first book. There's this tentativeness and fear of, is it going to be good enough? And we all have that in us, don't we? Whether it's a new job interview or applying for a promotion or going on a date. We all, how am I going to come across? But now you did it. You did it. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. And so what would your advice be to other first-time authors? People who maybe feel like, oh, I've got a book in me, or I'd like to start writing. What advice do you have for those writers?
Well, Leigh, before I answer your question, I like what you just spoke about, with this pandemic story. This pandemic is a reality for everyone. And, as an economics lecturer, I'm going to just wear that cap for a while. The reality of it is that unemployment is going to rise. Businesses are going to fall. Some have already done that. Unfortunately, this is quite sad. And that's a reality. And from where I stand right now, I do realize that, people that get retrenched or lose their jobs for whatever reason need to get to a point where they start searching within themselves. And that's where I think this book is going to be very beneficial to people at this point. For the mere fact that when you do not have a job, you are in a crisis, because we all need money to pay for this and that. But I've discovered a secret about life, about achievement. That secret is your own purpose. Your own purpose and your own gift cannot be retrenched. You as an individual can be retrenched at your work, but if you have your gifts and you're working with your gifts, you cannot be retrenched, trust me. It does not matter where you are. I do lecture with a number of universities, but me being retrenched or being removed from a university, it does not remove my teaching skills. I'm using the book, for instance, as a teaching tool. And people are going to read it. So it's a gift and no one can take it away. People are buying the book, so it's making money for me. I know that sounds a little bit forward, but it's a practicality of teaching. I am teaching via the book, so people will get it. Whether I'm in a formal job or whether I'm in a formal business or not, I am achieving that. And because I touch people's lives, then I get called to come talk to people, to help people. So when I'm on stage talking, people say, okay, he's a speaker, but I'm actually a teacher. I am teaching. Whether I'm in a formal stage or not, I am teaching. So I use the book as a tool. Now to answer your question, I use the book as a tool to help people and to achieve my purpose in humanity. So if anyone wants to write, that's good. I would recommend that you write about something that you are passionate about, something that you can share from the heart. because people can sense it. If you can share from the heart, you will make an impact. And I wish that people do not just write for the sake of being famous or being known. I wish that people write for purpose, because that makes it easy. The reason I mention ease is about the fact that it's tough writing. So at some point, you're going to feel like giving up. But if it's for purpose, you will not give up. I mean, I'll share some challenges that I've had in my book, in writing this book. As I said earlier, a human being has got around 60,000 thoughts a day. And the challenge with writing is to write on a specific thought, while your brain is already feeding you with more creative thoughts. And also at the same time, having to wrestle with the fear and anxiety. So those are negative thoughts. So that is a complexity while you're busy writing. So as a teacher, I'm prone to getting my point across with an intent that the receiver receives the intended message. Therefore, I'm sensitive to not being misunderstood, and that involves well-articulated presentation of my message. That's a challenge. Something that I also touch on in the book is that paradox of mistakes, as I shared. So as we age, we become susceptible to fear of failure. However, it is intriguing that when we were children, we were not afraid to fail. In my writing, I had to be willing to not be perfect, but be willing to make mistakes while I'm on my way to perfecting that art of writing. So to first-time writers, I would say, write on what you're passionately involved in, because it is easy to give up. If your message as a writer is not from deep within, it might be a challenge. So write about what you are firmly believing in.
What great advice. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And because I think from my side, and part of my purpose in doing the interview is to support local authors and to highlight that there is incredible talent and giftedness and wisdom here in South Africa, and that we don't only have to import our wisdom, that it lies within us, and that
we want to export it.
And therefore, how can we create a platform or give a platform that highlights the amazing opportunities that we have to give people a place to share their wisdom, and therefore for others to receive it. So I'm really glad you persevered through the fear and the anxiety and the processing to be able to write this book. Tshepo, we've spoken a lot around the book. There are two things that I do want to just highlight now in terms of the book. And the first thing that I'm going to ask is, you end your book with a model, the ADI model. And we've spoken about bringing simplicity or complexity into simplicity. And yet, besides your story and telling us the various aspects of ways of thinking, you end it with this very practical, simple, applicable model. How did you come about that model? How did it come to you, and how did you work it out?
That's a profound question, Leigh. It comes through experience and my teaching style. Those two. So experience teaches you to observe certain patterns, and that's why then they become sort of principles, because principles can be theories or axioms, but out of observation you learn how things work. And then from my teaching style, which I call it complexity to simplicity, I demystify complex concepts and make them easy. In every class I'm in, I want somebody to have something simple to remember that is a deduction of what they've learned. So I wrote the book. The initial title was What Am I Thinking? But then I had to have a tagline, so to call it, something that somebody will remember. And obviously that took a lot of work, because number one, you want it to be easy to remember. Number two, you want it to be easy to conceptualize. So even if I'm teaching something complex, I want my client to remember it as a simple thing. So the ADI model is an amalgamation of a number of principles or laws that are simplified in order to deliver results. ADI is attention, detention, and intention of thoughts towards achieving a purpose or fulfillment. In life, we get into glimpses of our lives where you will, as Tshepo, see yourself, at the dome. Just for 1 second, I would see myself there talking to thousands of people, educating them, impacting their lives. That will happen in a split second. But then what happens is that we do not become attentive to that thought. And as such, we cannot get to the second stage of detaining that thought in order to be creative with that thought. And if you cannot detain that creative thought, you will not be creative. After being creative, if you decide to detain your thought, then you're going to show intention by action. And when you get into action, that's when you get into mistakes and what have you. But through those mistakes, you become wiser. And as you become wiser, you just get better and better. And then you get into fulfillment. And that's how this ADI came through. It just came through my own personal experiences and my teaching style. And as such, it became easy to write. And then I hope that people will remember that ADI model in order to impact change in their lives.
Tshepo, I think what I really value about what you're saying is that you are presenting this model, but you've practiced it. You yourself have implemented it, that through your observation, you have seen patterns. That's the attention that you've given, that you've detained that thinking and now implemented it in this model. And by writing the book. So you eat your own food. I love that. So the title of your book is What Am I Thinking? And I really think that that's such a clever title, because I can imagine how many times have some of us said, what am I thinking? How could I, and you do something and then you look back at it and you think, how could I have done that? What was I thinking? But it also is an examination of our thinking, isn't it? What am I thinking? So I love all the various dynamics of that title. If you were to choose, I'm going to put you on the spot. And
okay.
What is one thing that you would want readers to take away from your book? What would it be?
Leigh, quite a number of things. But if I had to just hit a punchline, I would say, in terms of your thinking, are you a consumer or are you a producer? Because that's the gist of the book. There are so many thoughts and, and a whole lot of influences. That's why I talk about senses in the book. So many things that come into your head. And when that happens, is that you're consuming. But once you start getting to ask yourself, what am I thinking? Now you're becoming productive. You are becoming intentional about what you're thinking. So you are going to be not a consumer, but you're going to be a producer. That would be my answer.
I really, that, you know, what I appreciate about that is this, the fact that at the moment, again, if we come back to our context, that we are inundated with information. And some of it is factual. Some of it, I don't know if I've ever lived in an era where there are more conspiracy theories than there are floating around at the moment. And also, I think because we're at home, many people are just finding working at home for the first time that the temptation to, you know, have Netflix on or whatever the case may be, and there again we're consuming. So I'm just thinking of us in the context that we're in, that maybe the consumption of information, not only our own thoughts, but what is happening around us, is now filling us up. And how are we actually thinking about our thinking so that we produce a thoughtful person rather than just regurgitating what we've heard others say. So it definitely is giving us thinking, isn't it? You making us think. So let's end off, Tshepo. I really appreciate this time that we've spent together, and I'm just so glad to dig a little bit deeper, having read the book and really see the value of it. But now putting the person to the book and being able to flesh it out a little bit, I think that's been really, really helpful. One last question. Where to from here? What are there other books in mind, and what are your plans with this book? So give us a little bit of what is the future Tshepo looking at?
Thank you for that question, Leigh. Let me first start with regards to where to from here with the current book. So the current book is a glimpse of what Tshepo is, and a glimpse of the impact that Tshepo could have in other people's lives. And I'm passionate about adding value to other people. I also mention it in the book that we were not born in a crowd, but we are born for a crowd. If you are living your life only thinking about yourself, oops, wake up. There is no greater joy than saving other people. So my book, What Am I Thinking, is just a glimpse of what Tshepo can have. In actual fact, my biggest mental challenge with the book is that it does not give all that I have to offer. So for instance, when you interview me, you find bigger things. When I'm on stage talking about some things, then you discover, oops, there's actually more here. And that is the intent. You know, I believe that people will get the book and then they will get to invite me for talks or for educative trainings that I do, and then they'll get the value. Because right now I've also developed, you know, training manuals and impact coaching that relates with the book. So that is building on the book. And then there's a chapter sequel also that I've already done. So that is something that I'm looking at. So the more the book is out there, the more people will be impacted, and the more I want to share with the people through guest speaking or coaching sessions or training. Okay, that's just with the book. In terms of being an author, I've already started on the second book. And yeah, it's just on another level. I'm excited about it, but I'm taking my time building it because my current focus is this book. But then the next book is about thinking about money. So it is just on another level. It's beautiful. I mean, I don't even want to go there. It's just beautiful. So yeah, I think that answers you, Leigh.
Ah, well, your face is literally shining when you talk about this next book. So I'm rubbing my hands. I can't wait for the next one. And it's also one of my real passions, and that is helping people to think about money, because I think it's a big stumbling block in many, many people's lives. And so thank you. I look forward to watching this space. And Tshepo, we just wish you all the very best, greatest success with this book and with all the various aspects of the work that will flow out from that, and the impact that you are bound to have on other people's lives. So thank you for your time, and all the very, very best.
Thank you so much, Leigh. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.